Welcome to the Last Guru podcast, the podcast for all those curious and passionate about spirituality, which explores human potential from an evolutionary perspective, but also helps address life's practical problems at a higher level of knowledge. What if I told you that your body is sending you signals right now? In this explainer, we're going to decode those messages. We'll explore the deep, fundamental link between what you eat, especially glucose, and how you feel, uncovering how this silent inflammation might just be the hidden reason you're struggling day in and day out. So let's start with a question that I think nearly everyone can relate to. Why, in this modern world of supposed convenience, are so many of us just completely exhausted? You know the feeling, right? That heavy crash you get right after lunch? Or that mental haze, that brain fog that makes it so hard to focus? And what about those persistent, nagging aches and pains that seem to pop up out of nowhere? It's so easy to just shrug and say, well, that's just part of being busy. But here is the absolute key, the thing we have to understand. These feelings are not normal. They are not just side effects of stress or getting older. They are direct, urgent messages from your metabolism screaming that something is seriously out of balance. So what's causing this imbalance? Well, we're often looking in all the wrong places. The real culprit is hiding in plain sight, often in the very foods we've been told are actually good for us. Let's unmask it, shall we? Let's take something like pasta. For years, we've heard the nutritional breakdown. It has vitamins, minerals, and that all-important fiber. It's been sold to us as this healthy, energy-boosting staple. But you know what? That is a dangerously incomplete picture. Because that story leaves out the single most critical component. On average, a staggering 70% of pasta, from a purely biochemical standpoint, is just one thing: rapidly absorbed glucose. And to really put that in perspective, the 70 grams of glucose from a standard plate of pasta is biochemically identical to eating 36 teaspoons of table sugar. Just let that sink in for a second. 36. That is a massive biochemical hit our bodies are simply not designed to handle. So what happens to all that excess glucose once it's in your system? It triggers this incredibly damaging process called glycation. The best way to think about it is to imagine that glucose is like a sticky, liquid glue circulating through your bloodstream. It just randomly latches onto proteins and fats, damaging them, making them stiff and unable to do their jobs. This process, this glycation, is a primary driver of aging and almost every chronic disease we know of. Now, to understand why this is so damaging, we have to zoom out and look at our own history as a species. See, the problem isn't glucose itself, it's the fact that our ancient bodies are desperately trying to survive in a completely alien food environment. This timeline really puts it all into perspective. For 95% of our history as Homo sapiens, our genes were forged in a world where glucose was incredibly scarce. You'd find it here and there in roots or some berries. The agricultural revolution, which was only 10,000 years ago, was just a blink of an eye in evolutionary time. And the modern world of processed food, that's a mere split second. Our genetics haven't had nearly enough time to adapt. And this is where the absurdity of our situation becomes crystal clear. You've got mainstream nutritional guidelines suggesting that up to 60% of our daily calories should come from carbohydrates, which, let's be honest, is mostly glucose. But our actual bodies are only made up of about 1 to 2% glucose. I mean, does it make any sense to build a house that's 1% wood using 60% wood as your building material? Of course not. This fundamental error is what's making us sick. Okay, so how do we fix this deep evolutionary mismatch? The solution isn't another fad diet. It's about achieving a state of metabolic peace, a concept we can call Pax Insulinica, or insulin peace. First, we have to understand the real danger of constantly flooding our system with glucose. It forces our pancreas to work overtime, pumping out huge amounts of the hormone insulin. And while insulin is essential for life, having it chronically elevated is a catastrophe. It becomes powerfully pro-inflammatory, driving inflammation absolutely everywhere. It's pro-thrombotic, meaning it promotes blood clots. It's pro-arrhythmic, destabilizing the rhythm of our heart. And it's even pro-tumor, acting as a growth factor for cancer cells. So the goal, the entire point, is to achieve Pax Insulinica. This is a state of profound metabolic calm. It's about keeping your insulin levels low and stable by simply not bombarding your body with glucose all the time. When we finally give our system a break from these hormonal surges, we allow it to do what it was naturally designed to do, to heal, to regenerate, and to truly, truly thrive. Now, this isn't just a theory, it is a practical path to reclaiming your vitality. It involves rethinking our entire approach to what the ancient Greeks called dieta, which isn't just a diet, but a complete lifestyle. This path has three core pillars. First, we have to rethink food. This means prioritizing foods our genes actually recognize, foods that don't cause these massive insulin spikes, things like leafy greens, non-starchy vegetables, and healthy fats. Second, we rethink exercise. We're not talking about endless cardio. We're talking about short, intense bursts of activity that properly stress our muscles, awakening those ancient genetic pathways. And third, we have to rethink our mind. This means practicing a kind of mental fasting, giving ourselves a break from the constant chatter of the ego and negative thoughts, which has a massive biological impact as well. By understanding these silent signals, we can finally move from a state of constant internal war to one of peace and vitality. Every meal you eat is either feeding that inflammation or it's fighting it. The only question left is, which are you going to choose? Are you ready to make peace with your body? We look forward to seeing you at the next episode of The Last Guru, to live with passion. Because when the veil falls, trust and surrender reveal that no one is ever alone and never has been.